Welcome to part 2 of the parenting mistakes you didn't know you were making. Common ways we undermine our kids' success. What would you do in this situation? You sign your child up for the soccer team, and you're super excited because you love soccer and you loved it when you were a kid, and you know the exercise is going to be great for them, and learning to work in a team environment is going to build cooperation and acceptance and grit. After a few practices, you really start to connect with the other parents, and you finally feel the potential for those adult friendships you've been craving. You notice that your kid doesn't really give it their all at practice, and about 4 weeks in, they don't want to go anymore. What do you do? At the end of this video, I'll invite you to answer this question. But first, let's talk about needs. You have needs, I have needs, kids have needs, and guess what? They're all the same needs. In addition to physical safety, we have 3 psychological needs. Over the past 50 years, thousands of researchers have been studying these needs from all angles, and their findings transcend culture, religion, age, and apply to every context of life, such as work, school, sports, and relationships. And these needs are connection, the feeling of belonging, loving, and being loved; autonomy, the belief that we make the decisions that govern the outcomes in our lives; and mastery, the experience of getting better and better at something. Together, they create a sense of psychological safety, confidence, independence, and healthy relationships. When all of these needs are met, we and our children automatically feel motivated to explore, to learn, and to create. But if any one of these needs goes unmet, our energies automatically shift to doing whatever we can do to meet that need, whether or not it seems rational or healthy. When a child cannot get any one of these needs met, or worse, has to sacrifice one need to get the other, it can damage their innate motivation, their self-confidence, and directly affect their behavior and relationships. Common ways adults undermine kids' core needs. Unfortunately, many parenting and social norms actively undermine these needs, and having to trade one for the other is super common. Last week, I talked about mastery. Today, I'm going to talk about autonomy. But first, I want you to know that I have made most of these mistakes myself, even after I knew not to. Sometimes it was because it just went so against how I was raised, I didn't fully believe it. And other times, even though I did believe it and I wanted to, it was still impossible to stop. If you're interested in learning more about my journey, visit our website. The link is below. Wherever you are on this journey and whatever mistakes you've made along the way, I just want to thank you for being here. It's often how we come back from these mistakes that teach our kids the most. And the fact that you're here already says a lot about you. Today, we're talking about autonomy. Autonomy is the experience of being the cause of the outcomes in our lives versus being at the effect of others deciding our outcomes for us. It means we're the author of our own story. We get to make the choices that determine our own destiny. Autonomy, it gives us agency, independence, confidence, and sense of freedom. When we have autonomy, we feel empowered to make our own choices, we have healthy relationships with authority, and we can maintain healthy boundaries with others. On the other hand, lack of autonomy casts our kids as victims, feeling like they have to do things they don't want to, and powerless to change their own situation. Lack of autonomy can lead to lack of motivation, poor boundaries, a victim mentality, resentment, and anger toward authority figures. Autonomy is the one I see parents struggle with the most, and that's probably because it's also the most undermined need in our current culture. Society, by definition, confines us to a set of rules and agreements, and as a whole, we all do better with them in place. But, like everything, too much of a good thing is just that, too much. Rules for rules' sake, like do it because I said so, can quickly devolve into oppressive structures that shut down our expression, our connection, and our innate desire to take care of ourselves. It's the trickiest one to apply because it requires us to dig deep, to reflect, and balance, allowing our kids to be and do differently than we expect or other people expect, while still respecting the laws of society and their impact on others and keeping them safe all at the same time. Autonomy is a dance. To make it even harder, what this looks like in action is constantly changing as our kids move through different stages of development. Autonomy at 6 looks really different than autonomy at 16. And with each stage, the stakes get higher and the risks more terrifying. So, supporting healthy autonomy demands constant consideration, communication, and openness as we challenge our own assumptions and our expectations. And we also have to consider the deeper why behind every rule. It also means getting uncomfortable as we go against the rules and expectations of our peers and parents and often society at large. For example, I didn't force my kids to bathe unless there was a compelling reason like poison oak or poo. That's something I don't know if most parents could imagine. So let's get into the most common ways I see adults undermining their kids' autonomy. Autonomy killer number 1, forcing your child to share. If the thing you want them to share belongs to you, cool. But if it's theirs, like a bag of chips or a toy, it's their call. Chances are you want your kid to share because you think they're supposed to, because you want other kids to like them, or you want other parents to think well of them and of you. But developmentally, this is something that they need to come to on their own. From a very early age, your kid is just figuring out that they're separate from you and then learning how to get what they want in the world. Many kids have an innate desire to share. Many kids don't. There's no right or wrong here. Sooner or later, in their own time, they will figure out that sharing gets them things they can't get in any other way. But if you force them to share too early, it can actually slow down this learning process, or worse, lead to things like resentment and being secretive about what they have. Instead of telling your child to share, model sharing yourself. And when they're at an age where they can understand, you can let them know that sharing often gives people a good feeling, but that it's totally their choice. Here you're simply helping them to connect the dots without taking away their ability to choose. Autonomy killer number 2, forcing your child to hug, kiss, or be physically close to anyone. I know, grandma might get offended when your kid doesn't want to hug her or sit on her lap, but every time we ask our kids to give up their choice about what they do with their bodies and with whom, we are reinforcing messages that our bodies don't belong to us. And we're telling our kids not to trust or act on their real feelings. If they don't want to give or receive physical affection, you can help them by backing them up and giving them the language to say no with grace and authority. Autonomy killer number 3, forcing your child to do anything that doesn't directly impact someone's safety or the law. Now, this one flies in the face of all social norms, and it includes common things that everyone else around you is telling their kids to do. Sports, teams, homework, hairstyle, clothes, etc. Yes, I know, teamwork is a valuable skill to learn. And it's true that the grades your child gets in high school will have an impact on their college options down the road. But seriously, if this is causing a big reaction in you, it's time to take a deep breath, take a big step back, and recognize that just as your life belongs to you, not your teachers, not your parents, your child's life is also their own. And there are a lot of amazing ways that a person can live a life. The most valuable contribution your child will ever make is living within their own personal zone of genius. And that just isn't always sports or academics. As a parent, The best thing you can do is teach your kids how to think through decisions, how to look at the consequences of their own actions, mostly by living it themselves, how to understand cause and effect so that they can link up how what they do and don't do today can impact what they can and can't do tomorrow. Let's talk about homework for a minute. I personally didn't pursue a master's degree because I was so sick of homework by the time I graduated college, I literally couldn't bear another day of it. Later, I learned that there is literally a negative correlation between homework before middle school and academic outcomes for kids. When I read that, it emboldened me to stand my own ground with my kids' teachers and tell them that homework was strictly voluntary. And the teachers were surprisingly fine with it. I'd always expected to talk with my daughter about the connection between homework grades and college by middle school, but in the 5th grade, she just decided that it was important to her, and she started doing it on her own. Now, I offer her supportive reminders because I know it's important to her, but otherwise, I'm hands off. Now, I don't know if my son will choose this like she did. He's a very different person, but I'm okay if he gets terrible grades, so long as I know he's thought through what he wants and he understands the connection between things and he's acting from a place of his own truth. All that said, there are going to be things that your kids don't want to do that you're still going to have to insist on, like, for example, sending your kids to school at all. Let's be real, most kids don't enjoy it, but it's the law, and as a whole, it's important for the society that we choose to be part of. Unless you want to homeschool, I recommend being real and acknowledging the truth of their experience while letting them know that we are choosing to be in a country that believes education will make us better as a whole. And then there are the things that impact you, like messes in the common spaces. If you find yourself cleaning up after your kids and you don't like it, then you can make it clear that a condition of spending time in these spaces is that they do their part to keep it up. My kids, for example, can keep their rooms as messy as they like. But if they want me to come in and put away their laundry, I need to be able to move through the space. So let's go back to that original scenario. You sign your child up for the soccer team, and 4 weeks in, they don't want to go anymore. What do you do? Let me know in the comments. Chances are you may find some items on this list anywhere from surprising to downright challenging. And if so, you are in good company. Which ones impacted you the most and how? Please put in the comments anything you'd like to understand better, challenge, support, or are unsure of how to apply in your current situation. Next week, I'll be sharing 2 common ways that we hurt our kids and our relationships. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and sign up for our newsletter. See you next week.